I turned 18 and I moved my multi-million-dollar inheritance away from my parents' reach into a legal trust. The next morning they told me they had sold my house. I simply smiled and looked at the buyer standing in front of me. He was my lawyer and the house had already been transferred back into my name. The moment I turned 18, I moved my multi-million-dollar inheritance into a legal trust where my parents could no longer control it. The very next morning my parents told me they had sold my house. I was standing in front of my own house. I had a coffee cup in my hand. A for sale sign was sitting right in front of the property. I looked at the sign, then at my parents. Both of them had a strange calmness on their faces, like they had just solved a huge problem. "You sold the house?" I asked quietly. My mother, Elizabeth Carter, fixed her hair and said, "Yes. And we hope now you'll understand that not everything can stay in your name forever." My father, Richard Carter, stood there silently like he always did. He was 64 years old. His greatest strength and his biggest weakness were the same thing. He never spoke up during a fight. My brother, Mason Carter, was 36 years old. He had been Mom's favorite since childhood. He believed the world was built around him. Mason's wife, Victoria, was 34. Expensive clothes, a luxury car, and a habit of looking down on people. She never truly considered me part of the family. Me. I was Sarah Carter, 18 years old. Quiet on the outside. Someone who remembered everything on the inside. I looked at my mother. "Who gave you the authority to sell my house?" She laughed. "Your house. Sarah, you're still a child." "I'm 18 years old. Legally, yes. But not when it comes to making smart decisions." I said nothing. Because there was one thing she didn't know. The day I turned 18, I made a decision. A decision that was about to change all of their lives. My grandmother had left me a multi-million-dollar inheritance. For years my parents had managed that money. They believed that even after I turned 18 they could still control my choices. But my lawyer, Daniel Harper, had warned me beforehand. "Sarah, once you turn 18 you'll have full control. But make sure you think carefully before you make any moves." That day I signed the trust documents. And maybe you're wondering why a daughter would hide her inheritance from her own parents. It wasn't just about money. It was about everything that had been happening for years. If you think hidden power struggles inside families are always obvious, remember my story. Sometimes the biggest betrayal comes from the people we trust the most. And if you enjoy real lifestyle stories like this, make sure you like and subscribe, because what happened to me over the next few weeks was something nobody saw coming. I let my parents walk inside the house. I wanted to know how far they were willing to go. My mother sat down in the kitchen. "The buyer is coming tomorrow," she said. "Who's the buyer?" "A businessman." "Name?" She paused. "Why does that matter to you?" "Because this is my house." Mason, who was standing near the doorway, started laughing. "You really think you can challenge us?" I looked at him. "You sold my house, Mason. We helped you." "Helped me?" "Yes. You can't do anything on your own." I just smiled. He didn't like that smile. "What does that mean?" "Nothing." "Sarah, stop playing games." "I'm not playing games. I'm waiting." The next 3 days were strange. My parents were happy. They believed they had decided my future for me. I stayed quiet. I watched everything. Mason was always on his phone. "Yeah, the house will close soon," I heard him say. One night I heard his voice through the hallway. "No, she won't find out. She still thinks we're on her side." Standing behind that door, I realized for the first time that the problem wasn't just the house. The next day I went to Daniel's office. Daniel was 45 years old. Calm, intelligent, and the kind of person who didn't talk much but understood everything. "They're selling the house," I told him. He looked surprised. "Which house?" "The one my grandmother left in my name." Daniel went quiet. Then he opened his computer. "Sarah, sit down." "What happened?" He pulled out a file. "Your parents didn't just try to sell the house." I looked at him. "Then what did they do?" "They tried to gain access to your trust money over the last 2 years." My hands froze. "What?" "They filed requests claiming you weren't capable of making financial decisions yet." "But I'm 18 now." "Yes. But before this they were trying." Then Daniel opened another file. "And there's something else." "What?" "The buyer of the house isn't a businessman." I stayed silent. "Then who is it?" He looked at me and said, "A company connected to your brother's name." I closed my eyes. Mason wasn't just trying to take the house. He was creating a way to take control of my property. What can I do? I asked. Daniel looked at me. Collect proof. Don't make a move while you're angry. I nodded. I'm not angry. Then what are you? I'm getting ready. For the next 2 weeks I worked quietly. I saved emails. I looked through Mason's messages. I collected company records. And I discovered Victoria was involved too. One night I heard her talking to Mason on the phone. Mason, once we get the house we'll sell it. She won't get anything. Mason replied, she can't do anything. That sentence was enough for me. They thought I was weak. They were wrong. I told Daniel, it's time. He looked at me. Are you sure? I answered, absolutely. The final house sale meeting was held in a large conference room. Both families were there. Mason looked confident. Victoria was smiling. My mother was telling everyone she was only helping me. Then I walked through the door. The room went silent. Mason looked shocked. What are you doing here? I said, I came to the final meeting for my house. He laughed. You still think this is your house? I placed a file on the table. Yes. Because legally it is. My mother said, Sarah, stop this. I looked at Daniel. He stepped forward. Mr. Carter, Mrs. Carter, I need to inform you of something. This sale cannot legally be completed. Mason stood up. What do you mean? Daniel said, because the owner never approved it. Who is the owner? I looked at him. I am. The room became completely silent. Victoria said, that's impossible. I smiled. That's the problem. You never imagined I could be one step ahead of you. Daniel showed them the documents. The title has already been transferred back into Sarah Carter's name. And all financial control is protected under a legal trust. My mother's expression changed. You didn't trust us? I looked at her. You never gave me a reason to. My father finally spoke. Sarah. I looked at him. Dad, you knew, didn't you? He stayed silent. And that was my answer. Mason became angry. You betrayed us. I laughed. I did. I pulled out my phone and played a video. It contained Mason and Victoria's voices. She can't do anything. We'll get the house. Everyone heard it. Victoria's face went pale. Mason said, that's illegal. Daniel replied, no. This recording was obtained legally. Then someone walked into the room. It was my father. Everyone looked surprised. He placed an envelope on the table. I need to say something. Mason said, Dad, not now. For the first time my father stopped him. No. Now. He looked at me. I stayed silent for years. I left you to handle things alone. I didn't say anything. He continued. But there's something you need to know. He opened the second envelope. I kept the original documents from your grandmother. I always knew the trust was only for Sarah. My mother looked furious. You didn't tell me? My father looked at her. Because you wanted to use it for Mason. That was the final secret. My mother had always acted like she was the victim. But she was the one controlling everything. A few months later, investigations started into Mason's company. Victoria left him. My mother tried to contact me, but I only sent her one letter. It said, I got my house back. But more importantly, I got my dignity back. I still live in that same house today. The same house they tried to sell. One day someone asked me, do you miss your family? I thought about it. Then I said, I miss the family I thought I had. The real one? No. If you think Mason and my mother got exactly what they deserved, like this story, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if your own family treated you this way?